All right, so like I said, this is our 2021 Spirit Rules presentation. Again, my name is Amy Boozer, and I'm Associate Commissioner here at the League office. And you can see I've included my work number is 803-798-0120. Our office hours are 7:30 till 4 p.m. And you can definitely call or email me whenever you have any questions regarding cheer, whether it be competitive or sideline cheer. That is what we are here to assist with. So just going over coaching requirements, and these are requirements for all of our coaches and all of our sports. So head coaches, assistant coaches, volunteer coaches, all are required to do the NFHSlearn.com courses. And you can see we have 4 required courses for this year: the concussion course, heat acclimatization course, sudden cardiac arrest, and protecting students from abuse. We have 2 that are recommended, and that is the COVID-19 course. And then NFHS has created a new course, which is called the collapsed athlete. But those 2 courses are only recommended. If you remember, COVID-19 was a required course last year, but it is not required this year. Every 2 years, all coaches must make sure they have their CPR and AED certification up to date. So you just need to make sure that, again, all of your coaches have their CPR and AED certification up to date. And that, again, is for any assistant coach or volunteer coach that is with your team. All right, medical information. If you have a student athlete that has suffered a concussion, these are the approved healthcare professionals that can return that student athlete back to competition. So until they have been approved by one of these 5 healthcare professionals, they would not be able to participate until cleared. All of these must be licensed in South Carolina. Some other medical info for you is the wet bulb globe thermometer. Your athletic trainers should be monitoring this. And as you are starting practice this past Friday, or some of you are starting this week, we all know with August, the temperatures they do seem to get pretty high, and the wet bulb globe thermometer does come into effect sometimes. They will let you know what you can and cannot do as far as practice. Physicals, any physicals should be dated April 1, 2021 or after to be valid for this school year. So if you have a student athlete and they got their physical on March 30th, that would not be valid for this school year. So it has to be April 1, 2021, which a lot of you started tryouts April 5th or thereafter. So anything that's April 1st or after would be valid for this school year. And just check with your athletic director, especially when you're practicing or when you're hosting a competition, about your emergency action plan for your facility. We want to be prepared in case there is an emergency. We have to remember that not only do we have to worry about our team when we're there practicing, but if you're hosting events, you're bringing in large number of people. You're bringing in other teams, you're bringing in other coaches, and you're bringing in spectators. So making sure you're up to date with what your emergency action plan is for your facility for this upcoming season. And then we can skip the part of immersion tubs. That's for football only. All right. This PowerPoint actually is going to be recorded. Somebody just asked in the chat, will we receive it via PowerPoint, via email, but it will be recorded and posted on our website. So you would be able to go back and refer to this presentation today. It'll be posted on the website under the communications tab. And I think it'll be rewind is where you'll be able to locate this. So if there's information you want to refer back later, this will be posted later in the week. Sportsmanship, we want to encourage and emphasize good sportsmanship across the board. Remember, as coaches, what you permit, you promote. So what you allow your players to do and how you allow them to act or treat other teams is going to be a reflection of you. So what you permit, you promote. And we do have, for some reason, there is bickering, and a lot of bickering in the competitive cheer world happens through social media. So that is considered unsportsmanlike conduct. We would look at it, refer to it. Sometimes we've had to reach out to schools to address some comments that have been made. So just be mindful that you want to educate your student athletes on what is good sportsmanship. What do you want other teams saying about your team? Because what you permit, you promote. You need to take ownership of your players and coaching staffs. You want to make sure that your team is, they are representing your school at the highest level of sportsmanship possible. But we have to train, we have to teach, we have to educate. These are young student athletes. They don't know how to handle adverse situations sometimes. They don't know how to be respectful. So we have to teach them this as coaches. And I was just double checking the chat. It looks like all of that. Making negative or degrading remarks about officials, opponents, or the high school league. Again, like I think I said this, it is considered unsportsmanlike conduct and would be addressed as such. We do contact the schools. This does include social media posts. So just let's really strive to make sure that we are setting good examples for our student athletes. This is generic. We're using this with all of our sports that have officials, and you all have judges, and you know, our potential officials is not always increasing in all of our sports, and we didn't want to leave competitive cheer out, but often the way that these officials or these judges are treated is going to be a major reason why they're going to stay or they're going to leave the profession. So be mindful of that. Without judges, you can't have competitions. So they're very important. Are you always going to disagree? Probably not. But at the same time, you know, you have to understand they are judging your routine. You're out there for 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and there is no pause, stop, rewind, and let me look at that again. So they are judging in real time. We have to be mindful of that. We have to treat that as such. And we just have to think, okay, next time I perform, you know, they're going to catch this. So sometimes you might do something the first time on the mat. They didn't catch it, but I can assure you our judges, just as your teams, they get better as the season goes on. The more they get out there to practice being, you know, seeing teams, the better they're going to get. The same thing as your team. I've talked briefly about social media. A lot of you have social media accounts. Just be mindful of what's being posted on your social media account. We want to use this as a platform to positively highlight your team. You know, your team's accomplishments, your student athletes, individual things you're doing outside of the competition, you know, community service, so forth. So use your social media platform as a way to promote your team, your school, not as a way to be out there talking about how bad the competition was this past weekend and you can't believe so-and-so won. And yes, this stuff is posted. I mean, we follow social media from our schools pretty closely and we do see it. So just be mindful of that and use social media for a positive spotlight of your schools. Okay, open closed season. And we are placing a big emphasis on this across the board for all of our sports. We are trying to make sure our coaches are educated on what you can and what you cannot do during the open closed season. We do have violations across the board in all of our sports. There's not one sport that is exempt from this. So it's very important that we understand, we know exactly what we can and cannot do. And this is for competitive. So if you are just a sideline cheer only, and you do not have a competitive team, you do not have an open closed season. So these are just for those schools that compete in competition cheer in the fall. So you have 20 days of practice. Your school facilities may be used. It can be open to all students and cannot be mandatory. The unique thing is with cheer is that April 5th to May 31st is your open season. You have 20 days. You can have your tryouts and practice. So you have 20 days to do tryouts and practice. And you're unique because you're the only ones that get to have tryouts during that period. June and July is open practice for everyone, except for dead week. So that July 4th, wherever it falls, that dead week, you can't do anything with your kids. You can't do fundraising. You can't do kiddie camp. You can't do anything during that week with your student athletes. That's a week for them to be completely away. You could actually do some competitions. I don't know how well that would work for cheer in the summer, but actually you have 10 days of competition you could do if you so choose. And then closed season. So when you get into the closed season, this is when a coach cannot work with any of their athletes on anything that would be sports specific. Students are not allowed to use the facilities on their own, can't just put the mats out and let them go in and have open gym and work on their tumbling. That would not be allowed. You can do strength and conditioning activities, but again, you cannot do any sports specific skills or training during the closed season with your competitive cheerleaders. You cannot be at the gyms with these athletes during the time. So if they are working at one of your local gyms and they're taking tumbling classes, you can't be there just to watch. That would be considered a violation. Now, as I said earlier, your open season is actually April 5th through May 31st. Your closed season would begin once you are eliminated from qualifiers or after the state championship. What happens if you have a closed season violation? Well, these are the penalties that would occur. If it's a one-day violation, it would be a $500 fine. The team loses 1 day of practice, and you are limited to one scrimmage, which for cheer, we don't really have scrimmages. But again, this is across the board for all of our sports. So this is just a broad violation. If it's 2 days, it's a $500 fine, and the team loses 2 days of practice, cannot host any events, and you would not be the home team in the playoffs, which that's irrelevant to competitive cheer since nobody's really the home team. And then third day or third occurrence in the sport is a $500 fine. You cannot host any events, and you would not be allowed to participate in the qualifiers. So we just want to make sure if you have questions on closed season and what you can and cannot do, that you are asking up front. Don't just assume that it's okay. Always call and check, because we want to avoid these penalties as much as possible. We want to clean this area up across the board in all of our sports. All right, just some general SCHSL rules. The high school league will sponsor a championship in each classification that has at least 12 of its schools participating. So right now we offer a class 5A, class 4A, and class 3A, and the class 3A is combined of class 2A and class 1A schools. We are close to possibly having enough for class 2A. I will be checking with the classification meetings when they come in the end of this month and 1st of September to see how many schools we do have in class 2A. I think last year we were right at 10, so that has us 2 short. But if there are 12 teams that we have for class 2A, then we would be moving in the direction of being able to offer that state championship for class 2A. All classes are allowed 24 performing cheerleaders on the mat. Members of the competitive team must have been a member of a support cheerleading squad. Please note that just says they have to be a member of a support cheerleading squad. It does not say they have to be on the varsity. So if you have a middle school student that's coming up, they can cheer for their middle school football team. That would be acceptable. They can cheer in basketball season if they want to do that. So it just says they have to be a member of a support cheerleading squad. It doesn't specify level. It doesn't specify sport. To be eligible to participate in the qualifiers, your team must compete in at least 2 competitions this season. So if you're planning to go to qualifiers, make sure you get those 2 competitions in. Last year, that was a challenge, but we did make it work. All right, if you are hosting a competition this fall, be sure you have completed the sanction application and paid the $50 sanction fee. You can view approved competitions on the SCHSL website under the tournament and invitational tab located in the AD notebook. And Elaine, whenever you all host these competitions, Elaine will send an email checklist for you prior to your event. So all right, those of you that are in here, make sure you're jumping on this attendance poll in progress and marking your attendance. Elaine, are you taking pictures of the email addresses?
I did.
Perfect.
Trying to.
Perfect. I think there's a way I can save them, or I might have to get Keith to save them for us.
Okay.
We have just a few that haven't answered the poll question, which I think if you're on the phone, I don't think you're able to answer that. So it's important that you send your phone number and who you are, so we have you for attendance. All right, moving on, sanction applications. Okay, they will not be available until May 1st for the upcoming school year. Sanction applications will not be available until May 1st for the upcoming school year. So please do not send your sanction application in February. It will not be accepted. And competitive cheer, they are the first ones to get their stuff in on time and early. So just Cindy has asked that we change that. So until May 1st. And again, that form is located on our website. Just some important dates. So your first practice could have been this past Friday. Your first competition is August 30th. The notification for entry. So if you're planning to be in the qualifier, your notification for entry would be October 22nd. And our qualifiers, as of now, we have class 3A at Lower Richland on November 8th, class 4A at Irmo on November 10th, and class 5A at Lexington on November 13th. We are still waiting to hear on a site for the state championship. So that has not been updated as of yet, but that date is November 20th. All right, schools will have 20 days, and we've talked about this, between April 5th to May 31st to complete tryouts and hold practice for the following year. Remember, your rising sixth graders may participate in competitive tryouts, or not, your rising seventh graders actually may participate in competitive tryouts and practice. So this has been put in place for a couple years. But one piece, your students must be enrolled in your school or feeder school to be eligible to try out during this time. If they are not, they cannot try out until the school year has ended for both schools. So you have to make sure that they are in your school or your feeder school to be eligible to try out. All right, some information for Sideline Cheer. So participation in spirit team activities during interscholastic contests and spirit competitions must be limited to bona fide students of the school and who are designated as members of the school spirit team. So meaning students that are eligible for your school. I can't have elementary kids out here as members of my school spirit team because they're not a bona fide student of our school. There is a time that yes, you can do a little kiddie camp and you can have them come out and perform, but that has to be prior to the football game or at halftime. They cannot at any time be on the sidelines in basketball or football with the cheerleaders. Okay, so understand that. Jewelry cannot be worn at any time. So you cannot wear jewelry at any time for any of the sports. I'm just double checking here, but all right, when building pyramids, no cheerleader may stand or sit on another cheerleader who does not have at least 1 foot or knee on the floor. So there are some different requirements here. The following are not allowed. So you're not allowed to do this at Sideline Cheer: basket tosses, double twist to a cradle, single twist to a cradle. Any twisting dismount is not allowed. Elevator tosses or similar multi-base tosses, and any airborne twisting, tumbling skills are not to be performed either. And I've gotten video, they'll send me video of athletes on the sidelines and here they are performing it. And I have to pick up the phone, call the athletic director. We have to address this with the Sideline Cheer. So that's why we're bringing this forward, sharing this information so people can't say, well, I didn't know. And this information can be found in the rules and regulations. It's at the very beginning of when the sports section starts. So we've kind of moved it to a new location, so you can refer to it at any time in our rules and regulations. A participant, so this is mascot. So if they're in your mascot uniform in a full head and or body costume, they must not stunt or tumble except for a forward roll. So I shouldn't see mascots being put up in pyramids or anything like that. That would be a violation and something that we would have to address with the school. All right, starting with the 2022 competitive cheer season, all music must be licensed. Those of you who did game day, you're familiar with this process. We're going to work this year is how this is going to look for South Carolina. This is something that's been coming down the pipeline, and we've just kind of been able to push it further and further back, but we're to a point that we have to start following this. So coaches will be required to provide a proof of licensing at registration, receipt of legal purchase for from approved source or provider. And people doing your music, they know this, they're doing it for All Stars. So it's not anything new that they have not had to do. They are familiar with it. We do have a partner, Cheer Sounds is a partner of the high school league. You can use Cheer Sounds. We're just sharing they're a partner. You'll be getting some information from our office, but we don't require you to use cheer sounds. So don't feel like you're required. It's just they chose to partner up with us. They like what we have to offer as far as our qualifiers and our state events, and they feel like they get in front of a lot of people. So Cheer Sounds is the official partner with the high school league. And like I said, we'll be sharing more information with you via email from their company. All right, so I'm going to move into the Spirit Rules just a little bit before I turn it over to Elaine. And so we've talked a little bit about the NFHS Learning Center. And I just want to share with you that you have those 4 courses that are required, but there are a lot of other opportunities in there for your student athletes to do some courses. There's actually a captain's course. There's a course on sportsmanship. I mean, there is a variety of courses in there for your student athletes, and not only just your cheerleaders, but maybe just your school, your students. If you're an educator, it's a lot of good stuff in there for educating some of our students as well. So I just advise you to check out what all they have to offer. NFHS Network, that became a huge part. We were able to utilize that pretty much, I think, at all of our qualifiers except for one. And I think if we would have got to them just a couple days earlier, they would have been able to accommodate that one as well. But some of our schools actually have the camera that you're already affiliated with NFHS Network. I know Chesney did. We were able to get there, and all we had to do was they had to start their camera and it just streamed live to the network. So it's a great resource. It's growing in our state. All right, your Spirit book. If you have not received your National Federation Spirit book, you can do so by your athletic director ordering the book for you. They would order it whenever they do their online orders, or you can actually get the book as an ebook. So you could download it on your phone, or if you are a member of NFHS, you could get the NFHS Rules app. So those are some opportunities for you for your rules. At this time, I am finished with my part. So I am going to turn it over to Elaine. And again, remember, if there are any questions you have, don't hesitate to put those in the chat and we can address them at the end if need be. So Elaine, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay, and Amy will be moving the slides for me because I can't move them on my end. First rule that we have is 2-1-21. And this is basically an adjustment to a rule that we have had the last couple of years. It says allowing head coverings for religious reasons without state association approval. Before, we had to have a state association approval, and now that rule is in place. So if it is a head covering and it is for a religious reason and you have it documented, then you can allow that. As your safety interpreter and your head safety judge, I would like for you to let me know if you're going to have such on your team as a head covering, so I can just let the safety judge know who's coming there. They will be aware of this rule, but it's always nice to know when something is changed in the rule book and then they encounter it, because they might say, oh, was that adjusted by the high school league? Well, I'm going to let them know they don't have to do that. But if you can let me know, I'd appreciate it. Okay, next slide. Rule 321B. Now, before we go any further, you will see it also says 421B. And I want to tell you, like I always do, 4 is for dance. Go into your book, staple that together, and never go in there, because you will get confused. There are some rules that they allow in dance, they don't allow in cheer. They allow in cheer, they don't allow in dance. So you don't want to be using the wrong section of your book. So it's about midway through your book. This is your book this year. It's about midway through your book. It comes at the end of cheer section, which is 3 whatever, 5539. So staple it together, don't use it. All right, 321B. A base must not assume a back bend, headstand, or handstand position, and they may not hold objects in a hand that is supporting a top person. There's an exception to this. A base and top person may share a palm during a dismount from a thigh stand, shoulder sit or straddle, shoulder stand, or prep. Now notice that's the only ones. None of these extended stunts, okay? They can't come down and have the palms in their hands and grab hold of the base. So make sure you do not do that. This helps to clarify what we already had in there. Next slide. Okay, Amy, can you make this one play? Go to the middle, yeah. So you will see that's an exception. To have the palms, she's in a shoulder sit. And then she's going to dismount, grabs the hands of the base, comes over, but she still has her palms in her hand. So she can do that legally. Next slide. Okay, 333, inversion. If you got your book, it's on page 20. If you do not have your book, write it down. This is on page 20. What happened with 333 is we took out subrule C. The top person in at least one bracer maintains hand-to-hand arm contact. Basically, this is talking about inversions. And the rationale was that basically we allowed for this last year in some instances, and we're allowing completely this year for you to do that. So they just took that last section out so you wouldn't be confused. Now it's going to allow for any common methods to be taught to lower the skill. Okay, next slide. See there? I have the foot. So it's okay to have the foot in any situation this year. Last year, there were specifics on when you could not hold the foot. Now you can hold the foot because it's a basic risk management reduction, okay? We felt like it was safer to let you go ahead and hold the foot, especially in something like this. Okay, next slide. 336D, suspended stunts. This section is deleted, and 336 is on page 21. Okay, this 336 is braced flips, and no, that's 5, I'm sorry, and all other inversions, and it gives you A, B, C, and then all of the exceptions with these inversions and suspended stunts, like the fold over and other things that we do. We no longer have to have D, which says when the stunt begins in an inversion and transitions to a non-inverted position, the upper body contact may be released before the top person is no longer inverted. We last year created that rule where you could do that. So with the changes in the 2020 rule, that did not need to be in the book. For instance, you're in a stunt and you do what I call the toothpick, and everybody knows how I describe that, the toothpick, where your top person takes her head down, remember the little bird, reaches down and gets the toothpick and comes back up. Last year, you could go down in that inversion and then come straight back up, and that was considered an advanced move. This year, because of this rule, that's not an advanced move, that's intermediate. Your advanced move would be toothpick, inversion, flip, up to an extension, or tick-tock, up to an extension. That gives you a release. Both of those are release moves. Both of those are because of this rule. So that's your difference in the rule, and it's also different in how it's going to be looked at when scored. Okay? Rule 355C, this is on page 26 and it goes into page 27. Okay, whoops. The top person in at least one bracer maintains contact except for the following skills. If you'll notice, that comes at the end of page 26. And if you look up on top of 27, we used to have ABC 1, 2, 3. Now we only have 1 and 2. So if the release is to cradle position, the contact may be hand to foot. The bracer must be in a double base prep with a spotter. Goes back to the picture, the video you just saw, where they come up and they hold the foot. This allows you to hold the foot in any type of release. It allows the hand to foot release to land back in a skill instead of having to go to cradle. That was what it said last year. You had to go to cradle. So now it's any skill. That's not going to increase the risk, we determined. So that was changed. Okay, let's show this. Okay, you notice she went into a load. That's a very simple skill. There's some that are more advanced, but that is showing you exactly what we're talking about. Can we play that again? She's in a load. She did not have to cradle, okay? All right, next slide. Spotter is required for single base prep level stunts in which the foot and feet of the top person is in the hands of the base, and for tosses to a single base shoulder stand. That doesn't affect us. What does this rule say? 4, 2, 8. It's not ours. I forgot to take that one out. It's a dance rule, so ignore that one, please. Next slide. Sorry. Okay, in our points of emphasis, every book, every year you get has a points of emphasis. People never read it. Sometimes I read it to you and you don't like that because I know you never read it. I'm not going to read it to you. If you will promise me you will read this, because it's talking about the return to play activity, which we all know is very, very important. So we're trying to reduce risk management here. Everyone, please read through this points of emphasis. Next. And this is your National Federation High School. It's in Indianapolis. The NFHS Learn.com is what we use more than anything but cheer coaches. The other two are good to go to, but that NFHS Learn.com is where you get all of your courses. You can go in there and you can even get the safety course, okay? So make sure you look at that. It will give you a link to it. The safety course nowadays is no longer ACA. I'm going to repeat this. ACA itself is no more. We are USA Cheer Risk Management. USA Cheer Risk Management. I sent out an email to all the competitive coaches that I had emails of last spring. If you want me to send you that, let me know if you need to be certified. If your ACA certification is still good, you do not have to be certified. When it runs out, then you need to go and get the USA Cheer Risk Management and Safety course. So you can communicate with me. You can text me 803-606-0728. Everybody has my phone number. So go right ahead and text me. It's fine with me. Let me know. I see y'all are laughing. You probably all have it. Some of you don't. Write it down. You might need me. Thank you.
All right, Elaine, thank you. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Elaine. That's what we're here for. We're here to answer any questions that you might have. Just remember, if you came in late and didn't hear, if you would put your name, school, and your email address in the chat. I am going to save that so we have it. Like I said, I think we have several of you that are some Sideline Cheer, and we just would like to start updating that database as well. But we thank you for being in attendance today. And if we can do anything for you, don't hesitate to reach out. And we wish you all a great season.
Yeah.